Order. This is the meeting for February 14th, 2022, Goffstown Select Board. First item would be to our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First up are the acceptance and corrections of, if needed, on minutes from 124 public and non-public.
I'll make the motion, we do the 1/24/22 public and non-public minutes with corrections if need be.
Second.
Anybody have anything? Collis, you all set?
I'm all set.
Okay.
Thank you.
Have a motion by Mark, seconded by Jim. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining would be myself. I wasn't here for that meeting. And then the public minutes from 2/8/22, which is the meeting at the deliberative session. Would that be correct?
Yes, I believe it is, should be.
Yep.
I'll make the motion, we do the February 8th, 22 public minutes with corrections if need be.
Second.
Anybody have anything? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? Seeing none, motion passes. I have an announcement. Goffstown Public Library, in conjunction with the Goffstown Lions Club, will once again host Candidates Night for candidates running for local town and school offices in March. The Candidates Night is scheduled for Tuesday, February 22nd at 7 p.m. in the Media Center for Goffstown High School at 27 Wallace Road. The candidates' booklet will be distributed at the event that night and will be posted on the library website, which is www.goffstownlibrary.com on February 23rd. Another one would be the supervisors of the checklist will be in session at Town Hall, 16 Main Street, Goffstown, New Hampshire, on Saturday, February 22nd, 2022, downstairs in room 109 from 9 a.m. to 9:30 a.m. for the purpose of making corrections to the checklist and for new voter registration in advance of the town elections on March 8th, 2022. Changes of address and party affiliation changes can be made at that time. If you are registered to vote, please bring your photo ID, proof of date of birth, and residence address. Anyone not born in the United States must also bring proof of citizenship.
Peter, can I just make an observation? I believe you said the 22nd of February. It should be the 26th.
I'm sorry, it's February 22nd, 2022, which is a Saturday.
February
26th.
Six.
Yeah.
Did I say that again?
Yeah.
Wow, February 26th. Have 5 minutes. Dick, you want to take a couple of yours?
Yeah, we can, at tab 8, you have the town administrator's report. You have your committee scheduled for the next 2 weeks. On Wednesday at 6:30 p.m., the library trustees are meeting at the public library.
Okay.
And 7 p.m. Parks and Recs Commission is meeting.
I'm going to be out of town this week.
I can cover that if,
You can?
yeah.
All right.
All right, I'll tell Rick Wilhelmy that.
Yep.
Next week, again, Tuesday, candidates night. Wednesday, 6:30 p.m., HCC will meet at Grassmere Town Hall.
Yep.
And 7 p.m., Conservation Commission will meet in this room.
Yes,
And Thursday, 7 p.m., Planning Board.
yes.
Thank you. Consent agenda, you have employee status reports, you have 2 crossing guards resignations, you have an IT help desk tech resignation, you have a temporary position for the DPW clerk to DPW executive secretary, and then to end that as well. Police administrative clerk to executive secretary promotion, and a DPW truck driver successful completion of probationary period. There's the contract for cyber communication sales. This is for the emergency responder radio network. That needs a signature of the chair. There are event permits for the Gardens at Uncanunic Mountain LLC, various dates this summer at 452 Mountain Road. And then there's Total Image Running. They have a half marathon, 10 miler and 10K on May 7th. I understand there's members of the board that would wish to pull out the pumpkin regatta, so we're gonna pull that one out till a future date. And I'll do follow up on that. And then there's a 5 miler Gobble Wobble on November 19th that takes part on Goffstown Rail Trails and roadways. Again, we'll take the pumpkin regatta out and bring that back to you at a future meeting. And then also, we added this afternoon a memorandum of understanding between the town and the Teamsters. This is again to grant sick leave after 30 days employment. But that's it for the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda with the exception of the pumpkin regatta 10K that we'll review later.
Second.
Any discussion, questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, motion passes.
At your next page, you have a recommendation from the assessor. You have abatement applications for map 9, lot 7. He recommends approval on that. And map 41, lot 67, an abatement application which he is recommending denial of.
Make a motion, we approve the assessor's recommendation as presented. Map 9, lot 7 to recommend, map 41, lot 67 to deny the recommendation.
Second.
Motion by Mark, seconded by Jim. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, motion passes.
Your next page, you have a contract or a memorandum of understanding between the town and the UNH Cooperative Extension. This is for a local business and retention and engagement program. This was brought forward by the Economic Development Council, and they are seeking approval of this, and then if approved, the chair would sign so that the EDC can move forward with this program.
How much does EDC have in their budget?
They are budgeted annually for $5,000,
Okay.
so this uses half of that.
Do you want to talk to that?
Sure. No, this is a good program that I think will actually engage a lot of the local businesses and provide support and hopefully show other businesses looking to come to Goffstown that we're making moves in EDC. So with that being said, I would make a motion to approve the MOU for the UNH Cooperative Extension.
I'll second the motion. It looks like a great way to get things jump-started.
We have a motion by Chet, seconded by Collis. Any discussion or questions? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, motion passes 5-0.
I had one more item. It was on the fire chief ad copy, but perhaps that would be better taken up when Chief Murray comes up later on in the meeting.
Okay. Kind of the next thing up in a minute is public comment. So Senator Del Sandro is here and he'd like to speak. Step right up, sir.
Thank you,
I do have a public hearing at 6:30. I just wanted to let you know that. So.
I'll take note of that.
I appreciate it.
I'll take note of that. For the record, I'm Senator Lou D'Alessandro. I represent District 20, Manchester Wards 3, 4, 10, 11 in the town of Goffstown. And I'll start by telling you that on Wednesday, we will have a debate on redistricting. And under the redistricting plan, I will lose the town of Goffstown. 16 of the 24 Senate districts will be reassigned, or there will be modifications in those 16 of the 24 districts. I've represented the town for the last 24 years. It's really been a privilege and a pleasure to do that. I will speak on the floor against the change in the districts and hopefully get some traction. But the Republicans have the majority, and the majority report will be ought to pass. And ought to pass means that 16 of the 24 districts will change to some extent. The real changes will take place in the Manchester area, where the district now occupied by Senator Kavanaugh will pick up the town of Goffstown and will pick up the town of Raymond, along with Hooksett and Candia. And I will pick up wards 2 and 12. So I will, if this new configuration takes place, I'll do 2, 3, 4, 10, 11, and 12 in the city of Manchester. And that will represent the new District 20. That's the way it was 20 years ago. I've gone through 2 redistricting over a 20-year period, and the district has remained the same. I've retained Goffstown for the 24 years that I have been in the Senate. Again, that will happen on Wednesday. There'll be a pretty significant debate about this on Wednesday. And when you have represented a community for a long period of time, 24 years, and I think it's been a very successful and cordial relationship that I've had with the town, and the town has had with me. Now, this year I missed the school deliberative session and the budget session. Well, first of all, I didn't realize that it had been changed to Mountain View School rather than downtown where it usually was. And the weather was pretty bad that first night. And the second night was problematic. I had another commitment. But I talked to the town manager. We talked about what happened at both meetings, and it seemed that they went well. The school meeting went well. The town meeting went well. There was some debate at the town meeting about voting machines, but to the best of my knowledge, after our discussion, everything seemed to come out well, and we moved forward for the actual vote that will take place in March. So those are really good things. I think the COVID situation has been very, very difficult for the last over 2 years, for 2.5 years. I was in Boston today at a meeting, and the Massachusetts State House has been closed for 750 days. No one has gone into the Massachusetts State House for 750 days. Our State House is open. Now I grant you, it's a bit difficult. The spacing at the committee hearings is, they're all 6 feet apart. The House has not met in its chamber for the last 2 years, and will not. I don't think will meet this year. That's a speculative statement, but I think it'll be held true. The Senate meets in the House chamber. We're 6 feet, more than 6 feet apart. The 24 of us meet, and we're spaced throughout the House chamber. We've met twice. We will meet again on Wednesday, and we'll meet in the House chamber. That's been a satisfactory situation for us. I think Senate President's done a really outstanding job of managing the Senate. We've gotten our work done. We've had our committee hearings. Some have been virtual, but generally speaking, all of them have been in person. And you can tune into any hearing at all. There's a methodology by which you can call in and you can see it. So we've taken care of the public side of it, which I think is extremely important, because public participation is a key element in the deliberative process. You have to be seated in the room. So people wait outside, and as one person leaves, another person comes in. But everybody gets a chance to say what they want to say, and I think that's very, very important. On the on the local side, I called the chief of police. I thought they did a magnificent job in dealing with the little crime that they had here, the shooting. They got that solved immediately, and kudos to the kind of people we have at the Goffstown Police Department. And I say that for the Manchester Police Department also, but we've got a wonderful police force, very responsive and very protective of the community, and really that's what it's all about. So kudos to the chief. He's done an outstanding job, and that should be noted. I think public officials don't get the kind of positive treatment that they deserve in today's world. You know, we're very negative towards public officials, but the public officials do a great job under duress, really. So kudos to the job they do. Quickly about the state, our Director of Administrative Services, Charlie Allinghouse, has to make a presentation to the state every other year in the budget process. And his presentation is, what's the financial situation of the state going to be like? He says that the state will have a $200 million surplus at the end of this biennium. That's what he predicts. Right now, at the end of the month of January, the surplus was about $174 million. That's revenue ahead of projections. Now, obviously, there are a lot of pieces of legislation that want to deal with that surplus, but we're running a surplus. Combine that surplus with the money that's come into this state, $1.25 billion in COVID money. We've got to get $1 billion in infrastructure money, and if other items pass, there'll be more money coming into the state. Hillsborough County received $44 million, $80 million. The city of Manchester received $44 million. The town of Goffstown received X number of dollars under that federal grant, and I think now you have an extension to spend it, right?
Yes, we received $1.8 million, and the board last year decided to redo the fire and police communication system with those monies.
Great. Well, the monies were allocated to be used at projects that were meaningful and that might have been affected by what's happened in the country. And if you use the money wisely, it'll produce big dividends, and that's what it should produce. There's a tremendous amount of money for broadband, which is being distributed throughout the state. I mean, millions and millions of dollars for broadband. So state revenues are good. The projection is that they will continue. We have a lot of money coming in from the federal government that will continue, and most of that money has an extension through 2025 in terms of the spend. And the governor will give his State of the State address Thursday. It'll be given in Manchester at the Doubletree. It'll be in the Convention Center, where he'll talk about what's happening with the monies that are coming in, what's the state of the state, and what he plans to do with the surplus. I think I can't remember another time that I've been in public life where the governor has not given his State of the State address right at the Capitol. So this is a first, and it'll be in Manchester. It'll be in the 20th Senate District, so we're very happy to see that, and we'll see how everything works out. And again, the governor has announced that he's running for re-election, so obviously there'll be a lot of activity in that situation. Happy Valentine's Day to everybody, and I'm sure that each and every one of you did the right thing with your significant other. I know James Craig must have, because he's that kind of guy. He really is. He's that kind of guy.
In the same vein, you bring your wife to one of our meetings on Valentine's Day?
Well, I thought you guys should get the best.
Oh, there you go.
So we delivered the best that we could. With regard to hiring of personnel, the state has a tremendous number of vacancies. Tremendous number of vacancies. I talked to the legislative budget assistant today, and I wanted an accurate number of vacancies for the fiscal committee meeting on Friday. But vacancies are very hard to fill. Extremely hard to fill, particularly in the healthcare area. New Hampshire Hospital is having a very difficult time. You can't get a psychiatric nurse. They're just not available. and the traveling nurse situation, the cost of it is significant. And as a result of that, what are you going to happen to pay the people that you have working when the traveling nurses are up here and the normal people are down here? What's going to happen to that differential as time goes on? We're all going to have to face that because federal monies are going to stop one of these days. We're going to be out of COVID, and we're going to have to find people. So replacing people is very, very hard to find now. I don't know what it's like in the community with regard to vacancies, but vacancies are very, very hard to fill. And the state has a huge number of vacancies. And the surpluses that have been created by the state, in many instances, are created by unfilled vacancies. So if you have unfilled jobs, what you do is you lapse that money, and that money is carried over. And under our situation, the lapses at the end of the biennium, that money goes into the rainy day fund. So our rainy day fund is approaching $300 million. That's very significant for a state of our size. That's a very significant amount of money, but the money got there because we couldn't fill jobs and we couldn't do programs that we had allocated monies for. When you have lapses, the size of the lapses that we had in the last biennium, when you get a $100 million lapse, that's $100 million allocated but not spent. That has an effect on programming, a significant effect on programming, and it's something that we really have to deal with. I'm going to try to get $30 million more from the infrastructure money for pothole repairs at the cities and towns. The potholes are unbelievable. The damage caused to vehicles, unbelievable. Now there's a very worthy expense for $30 million. In the last budget, Mr. Chairman, and I know how conscious you are about the budget, the Democrats, I chaired the Finance Committee, we gave the municipalities $20 million a year. We gave them $20 million. So $40 million distributed to the municipalities. That was taken away in this budget. So you didn't have that municipal aid. But I think it's a worthy use of the infrastructure money. I've talked to the people at Public Works on the House side to see if they could do something to help. These roads are in terrible shape. And Manchester in particular, I drive over them all the time, and I'm sure you guys drive over the rural roads in this community. The winter has taken a terrible, terrible negative effect on the roads. They're really falling apart. They're really falling apart. And our state roads, the state highways, the main roads are in pretty good shape, but they're beginning to deteriorate also. We've got to do more, and with the money that's available now, it gives us an opportunity to do that. So I hope I can convince the House and convince the Senate to pony up some more money to repair the potholes that are omnipresent throughout our state. Generally speaking, COVID has taken its toll. Our hospitals, particularly Catholic Medical Center, Elliott, have been at 100% capacity. Services that were planned, these are voluntary surgeries, have been pushed aside. So people who needed these surgeries, but they weren't emergencies, were set aside because the beds were occupied by COVID people. That has a negative effect on the economics of the hospital, because you're not doing things that are revenue producing. And our hospitals have survived, but it's been difficult. It's been extremely difficult, and something that again, hopefully passes as COVID passes. Vaccinations, you've all been dealing with this. Who gets vaccinated? Do you get 2 shots? Do you get the booster shot? What about the kids? What about school and so forth? All of these things happening, simultaneously cause a great deal of concern for the community. And I think vaccination, there are 50 pieces of legislation before the House dealing with vaccines. There is a piece of legislation that, if passed, will cost the state $50 million in federal monies. $50 million. It eliminates vaccines. Now, you may have your thoughts about being vaccinated, and listen, that's an option that you can exercise. But the fact of the matter is that science has proven that vaccines are effective, and we use them for our children. And the big controversy now is, can we get the vaccines to young kids, five and under, and that's being debated by the CDC as we speak. But vaccines are a significant issue before the legislature. And they could have if some of these bills are passed, they could have a very negative effect on the dollars that we're receiving from the federal government. We got to think about that, because I believe it's a very important issue. You've
4
all
minutes,
heard,
Senator. 4 minutes.
4 minutes.
Yeah.
4 minutes.
We have
Georgiana,
an advertised public
Georgiana,
hearing, that's all.
This keeps me on a very close net. I don't know how he does it, but he's got his timer there. There were two things in the budget that I think have caused some strain to people, and that's the divisive concepts language in the budget, and certainly the language that surrounds a woman's right to choose. These are very significant issues. They're being debated all the time, and there are numbers of pieces of legislation that are dealing with it. So in my last 2 minutes, I'll ask if you have any questions or concerns that I can address. I would be more than happy to do that. I think the role of a public official is to be available and to address the concerns of your constituents and to do your best to solve those concerns. So that's what that I've tried to do in the time that I've spent in the Senate, and I'm running again for re-election. I don't know which district I'll be doing, but I'll be there.
You don't know where to put your signs, right?
Right, I don't know where to put my signs. Probably just get one big one and put it all over the state. I'll do that. But if you have
Anybody got any questions for the senator? Jim?
I should know this, but has the House already ruled on redistricting, and hasn't the governor said he's not happy with what's going on? Is that anything
point.
worth thinking about?
The portion of the redistricting that he's concerned about is the congressional. That's the 2 congressional districts. But he said nothing about the Senate, and he said nothing about the House. The House redistricting bill has passed, and Representative from Goffstown was the chair of the redistricting committee. The Senate bill comes before the Senate. The governor's had no concerns about those. Now, still in abeyance, though, are the executive council districts and the congressional districts. Thank you, Mr. Craig.
Well, not knowing what's going to happen in the future, if perchance you're no longer our state senator, you've done a great job. You've always kept us informed, even though you and I have had a couple.
Yes.
But I think the important thing is you also had a backup behind you, because she always came with you. And that needs to be, that needs to be mentioned also.
Right.
And we appreciate everything you've done for us.
Well, thank you, and I appreciate your comments. This year, we will be celebrating our 61st or 62nd wedding anniversary.
Which one is it?
I don't. It's so wonderful. I forget.
She said 61. There you go.
61.
Well, congratulations on that.
61 years of wedded bliss. Thank you.
We thank you for coming in.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank all of you, and thank you all
Senator.
for all of your hard work. And we have to keep it going. That's all. We've got to keep it going. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, it is 6:30, and we have 2 scheduled public hearings. We just scheduled, they're both scheduled for 6:30. The first one is in compliance with RSA 9-A, the Goffstown Select Board is conducting a public hearing to accept public input on the proposed update to the town-wide fees scheduled in the Parks and Recreation Department. Copies of the proposed update are available online at www.goffstown.com under public notices, excuse me, or the town clerk's office. The vote is scheduled on these fees updates on the evening after the conclusion of the public hearing. And I will open up the public hearing. Is there anybody here to speak? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. And we need a motion to adopt.
I'll make a motion to adopt the proposed amended Parks and Recreation fees in the townwide fee schedule as
Second.
presented.
Oh, sorry, second.
Motion by Collis, seconded by Chet. Any discussion? Seeing none, the motion passed. I'll call the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, seeing none, motion passes. Our second public hearing is in compliance with RSA 41:14-B. The Goffstown Select Board is conducting a public hearing to accept public input pertaining to the following traffic ordinance. Proposed ordinance entitled Stop Signs on Parker Station Road at the intersection of Gorham Pond Road and Locker Road, and the Locker Road ordinance. To install stop signs on Parker Station Road at the intersection of Gorham Pond Road and Locker Road. This is the first public hearing on these proposed ordinance. A second public hearing is scheduled for 2/28/22 at 6:30. A vote on these ordinances is scheduled for 3/14/22. I'll open the public hearing. Is there anybody here to speak to this ordinance? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing, and again, the second one is scheduled for 2/28/22 at 6:30. That's done. We'll call up interim fire chief. And this is at tab 4.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board.
Evening.
Tonight before you,
Just to let everybody, this is Chief Murray, because I don't know if you've been on TV with us before or yet.
I don't think so, no.
This is our interim chief, Sean Murray. He's with Goffstown, how many years ago?
22 plus.
And you're serving as the interim chief while we do it, fire chief search.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
So I'm before you tonight for the review of a trench drain replacement at Station 19. And if the board agrees to put this document out for proposals. The RFP was put together with our engineer and Deputy Chief Enos, and essentially encompasses replacing the drain pipe which runs the width of the front of the fire station itself, and also to do repairs to the apparatus bay, which, because over the years the weight of apparatus is starting to create issues with that. For the most part, the services will be to replace that drain, and then they will also tear up the apparatus bay, stabilize it, pack it down, and then pour a new floor.
Is it my understanding that actually when the apparatus moves in there, the floor actually moves?
It does. Yep.
This that one piece of concrete, that slab right there,
Yeah.
Pete, it flips.
The only fortunate thing is there's not a basement under it, you know.
Probably a good thing. So we don't have any idea yet. This is to go out to RFP to find out the cost.
Right. And I had a conversation with Derek too, as to when the board might want to put this out, and perhaps after town meeting. Do you think that'd be a good time?
So the one thing that's not filled in here is the date of receipt, and our thought was perhaps you might want to do it after town meeting because the repairs are budgeted in CIP, and if for some reason we're in default budget, the board that's seated at that time we'll need to determine what projects will get priority and what to move around.
So what is the difference if we go out for the RFP to get the pricing now? Just to,
Well, at this point, even if you did it, I mean, you're talking, if you're gonna put it out for a month or 6 weeks, it's gonna be coming back after town meeting.
exactly
so-
what I'm saying, so what difference does it really make if we, instead of prolonging it by waiting till after town meeting to put it out, why don't we just put it out now? And if it comes back, that decision will be made after that. Why prolong it for another 6 weeks or a month?
So if you're okay with the wording of the RFP with the fire chief to determine what the final dates are, you can do that.
Now, I would just as soon go out and get it.
Yep.
We hope to get the process moving. We heard Senator D'Alessandro talk about potholes. The same thing's happening here. You get water down in there, it undermines it, goes through freeze-off cycles, it just tends to tear it up, so sooner the better.
Not only that, trying to get a contractor to do a project could be a problem, so I would just as soon go out. Me personally, I'm not speaking for the rest of the board.
I could do that.
The rest of the board, what?
Yep.
I agree.
Okay.
Sooner or later, that piece of concrete's gonna go down, you won't be able to use the bay, and you won't be able to put a fire truck in there, and we already have issues with placing fire apparatus, so,
Put on 17.
yeah. Won't fit in the station.
So, Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the Station 19 trench drain replacement RFQ.
Second.
Motion by Collis, seconded by Mark. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, motion passes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
The next item is that tab 4B.
Good evening, gentlemen. I'm Lieutenant Bill Connor, I'm your fire prevention officer. I'm also the manager of the Knox Key Vault system for the town. Just give you a little history of what the Knox Key Vault is. We have Knox Key Vaults all over town where businesses and property owners have a vault actually bolted to or installed in their building that allows us to have keys to access their buildings after hours. We have a master key that we carry on our apparatus, and they're stored in a unit that looks like this. I'll pass this around. This is called the Key Secure unit. This is actually the current, well, I shouldn't say the current, this is the outgoing version. In your packets is the new version 6. That
boat
is,
anchor.
that is either a version 2 or version 4. So, what's happened over time? We started this program, actually, the actual key secure units started arriving into our vehicles sometime in the 1990s. Before that, we used a homemade security device that basically amounted to a buzzer and a very large washer on the key to make sure that we didn't lose it. So we've come a long way. Each one of these units is programmed with the members of our department each having a 4-digit code. They access the keys. The computer system inside tracks who's actually been in and out of the key vault, so we know who's used it. If we have an issue with locating a key after an event, we know who to look for. So that's part of the system. The catch with this is, as you felt the weight of this is bolted to a vehicle. So when we have to update it, I have to get into the truck with my laptop and go to every one of the units we have in the fleet and program each one of these individually. The Key Secure 6 that's in the proposal allows me to sit at my desk and use a Wi-Fi system to actually update all the units from my desk, which is great. But the other thing is these units are old technology. This is 1990s technology, and they're failing. There's actually 4 of them in my office right now that no longer accept programming. Knox is no longer supporting versions 2, 3, and they're only partially supporting 4. Most of our units are 3s and 4s. We have a couple of 5s, which are similar to the 6, but they're not as capable as the 6. So what we're proposing to do here is take advantage of the Fire Prevention Safety Grant that comes around and offers us an opportunity through this grant, to replace all of the units in the fleet simultaneously. You've got the price breakout on these things, you can see that they're kind of pricey. If we were gonna do this in our normal budget through the Knox system, we'd only be doing 1 or 2 a year. And it would take us quite a while to get through the entire fleet at 1 or 2 a year. And these are failing on a regular basis. Like I said, there's four dead ones in my office right now. The other part of this grant that we're looking to do is we're looking to add something called a home box. Now, home box is a key holder that we can loan out to residents if we have someone that needs us for medical access that may not be able to unlock their door. Now, you can say, well, I can go to the hardware store and buy that. You can. The problem with those is it requires someone to program a digital code into those, and it relies on someone in the home maintaining the keys there. So we've gone to sites like that and punched the code in and opened the door and found no keys. The home box system allows us to control the keys. So when a homeowner borrows the home box, we mount it at their site, they give us a key, we lock it in, and then we use the key out of our Knox system to access the home box. So this is an opportunity to set up 6 units to start up a program like that. There's another source we're looking at too that will also support the home box system, which is AARP. So if for some reason the feds don't like this grant opportunity, we could look at AARP. And as you know, we have a fairly large aging population, and this is probably a really good thing to have in our arsenal to be able to access people in their homes if they're having a medical emergency and the doors are locked. So that's the package we're looking to propose. Answer any questions you may have.
Questions, anybody? Lieutenant Connors, you're starting with 6 units on the home box.
Yes.
What's the potential that you'll have everybody, once they get the word, that everybody will want it, and how would they?
We're gonna have to set up a priority. I have to, in applying for the grant, you have to look at the part where we have to put 5% up against whatever the total value of the grant is. And where we're positioning ourselves with the 6 boxes, and also with the possibility of looking at the AARP grant, we may be able to make a larger purchase through them. So we just need to get the programs off the ground at this point.
Is there a potential that a person or a homeowner could purchase it?
Absolutely, absolutely. Knox allows people to buy them all the time. We actually had one in town a couple of years ago, and they moved out of town and took it with them. So,
Well, that's a
Yeah.
concern. I mean, if in the future we offered it as a service, if you get this, we'll be able to do.
if we manage the Knox home box system, they won't be able to take it with them. We'll have complete control of it. So it'll lock onto a handrail or something like that at their house, so that we have to remove it.
Okay.
Question.
Go ahead.
If we have control of it, I'm sure you've thought of this, but what's the assumption of liability on our part? If something goes wrong, if someone, that kind of thing?
Yep, Knox provides some paperwork. We can do basically a waiver liability that when we loan one out, they can sign, we can sign,
Thank you.
and we're all on the same page.
Great.
Anybody else?
I would
Calls?
assume if we able to make these available to the public, there would be a fairly significant impact on their homeowner's insurance or their business insurance if they have one of these. Am I understanding this correctly?
I don't believe so. This is primarily so that we can access someone if they have a medical issue in their home.
Right.
It just gives us access. It shouldn't affect their insurance one way or the other.
Okay. Seems interesting.
It's safer than one you can buy on your own because we're the only ones with the keys.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
I'll make a motion, we allow the Fire Prevention Officer, Lieutenant Bill Connor, to go for the grant, permission to apply for the grant for the Knox box and the,
Knox home box.
the home box.
Do you want numbers associated with that?
Yeah, we could I would suggest we put the numbers in there,
Total value.
$26,585,
$26,585.
which is a required match of 5%.
1,000?
So our cost to the town would be $1,330. Did you second that, Jim?
I did.
I thought so. Any discussion?
Yep.
Collis, you all set? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, motion passes. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And then, while we have the fire chief up here, there was one item I added to the town administrator's report, and I was hoping that you could perhaps take that up now, in
Well,
case you
sure,
had
we
any
could.
questions.
Yep.
So again, I distributed this earlier, and you have a printed copy before you. This is the draft ad copy to go out for the recruitment of the fire chief and the process being run by MRI. The one remaining question that I was unable to answer on behalf of the board was, what are you seeking in terms of residency? I don't think that we considered that last time we went out, but I think it would be appropriate to at least have that discussion and have the board make a decision on whether you wanted to, and again, I sent these options, would be a Goffstown resident or adjacent community, or within some type of radius from Station 18 or radius from the town, whether it be miles or time of response.
What's the norm?
The trend is that municipalities are shifting towards looking at a time limit because the competitiveness of, getting a fire chief is pretty difficult, just like a lot of places right now. So we see typically like a 30-minute response time, for the municipality.
Personally, I think a 30-minute response time would be fine. The problem is, if you're trying to get a chief to move into Goffstown, for that person to try to find a home, it's damn near impossible right now. I don't think there's any listings in town, or if there are, there are very few. So, my idea would be 30 minutes. Everybody else, Jim?
That would, that would include Manchester, not Nashua, right? But the big areas where,
Well, 30 minutes,
30, yeah, that's
whatever's 30 minutes.
Get Nashua.
Nashua, yeah.
Yeah, I
Okay,
think that's
all right. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I think restricting it to Goffstown residents only just is not good. I mean, that shrinks the applicant pool so small.
Exactly.
We don't have anybody to choose from. And it's way too competitive for that.
You want a motion?
Yeah.
I'll make a motion, we allow the 30-minute rule to be implemented on the search for the Town of Goffstown Fire Chief.
Second.
Motion by Mark, seconded by Chet. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, motion passes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
I'll be joining my colleagues in the back. They tell me that's what I'm saying.
What are you doing sitting up front?
So I'll get this off to MRI first thing in the morning, and they will start advertising this and getting this out, so.
Next up is DPW.
Yep.
Good evening.
Good
Told
evening.
the fire chief he's not allowed to show up first. Then he said Friday, I realized where he's supposed to be. Just one item for tonight. It's our annual request to adjust the DPW hours for the construction season. As you know, the last few years, several years, we've changed from 5 8-hour workdays with an unpaid lunch to 4 10-hour workdays with 2 paid 15-minute breaks.
Senator, good night, thank you. Thank you again.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Sorry to cut you off, Adam.
Oh, no problem at all.
I
That's
just want to say good
that's important. So that change in the workday shifts from a 5-day work schedule to a Tuesday through Friday 10-hour day, and allows us to cut down on the amount of mobilization, demobilization throughout the week. So we find it a little bit more efficient. It's certainly helpful for contractors when we have a contracted project that they need to work late. We're not into overtime for some of those longer days. And we found Tuesday through Friday is usually more amenable because very rarely will a contractor come to us and ask if they can come in on a Monday and get something done. But if you work Monday through Thursday, very often on a Thursday they'll say, do you mind if we come back tomorrow? In which case we need people there to support. So we found Tuesday through Friday is pretty helpful. It certainly worked out well in the past, and the crew seem to enjoy that flexibility in the summer too, if they want extra time off for a weekend or to pick up a second job or something like that.
We've been doing it for
Yes,
how long?
this has served us well in the past. I don't see any reason not to approve it, so I'll make a motion to approve the proposed 2022 construction season schedule as presented tonight.
Second.
I got seconded by 3 different people, so just pick one, I guess. Any further discussion?
Yeah.
Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, motion passes.
Okay, thank you.
Back of the room.
And I also think we should have $30 million for pothole repair in town. I'll be ready for that budget transfer next week.
I think next up is new business, which would be draft voters guide.
Yes, tab number 9.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to go through it, so anybody that's done it, I would appreciate your input.
So just to let the board know, basically the draft voters guide, we provide this to, we mail a copy out to all residential addresses in town. And then we have them available at the library here at Town Hall, as well as I believe we send a couple bundles over to the transfer station. In terms of the content, we provide the list of all those running, seeking office for both the town and the school. Any zoning amendments, the explanation is provided by the planning director, and typically the planning director runs that by the planning board chair. And then typically what I do for the town side for explanation is really steal from your script from the deliberative session, adjusting for any amendments, and then we provide a little additional information on the budget, providing us a detailed summary of what goes into the operating budget.
That's good to me. Make a motion to approve the voters guide, 2022 voters guide.
Second.
Motion by Check, seconded by Collis. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, motion passes. And then next up is the old business, and we're going to, Vice Chairman Bowen's results from the 2021 Employee Wellness Survey.
We're not coming.
It's-
Oh, goodness. Okay. Well, while this is coming up, I'll just sort of give the rest of the board a little bit of background. I wanted to get a snapshot of how the employees in this town are doing generally from a well-being standpoint. We didn't talk a lot about, you know, funding. We didn't talk a lot about any of that. It was really about how are you as a person doing in this job? What's your sense of well-being? So we went through and we created, you can just hit the next one. It's not a scientific survey, but I wanted the department heads to get a basic sense of how things are going and then potentially be able to use some of the information to make positive changes within the departments. Certainly not a referendum on the department heads. Again, it was a sort of a first shot at this to get a sense for what's happening. It gives us data from about over the past 6 months is when we went through and did all of this. So I would go in, the department heads did a great job of getting as many people as they could from within the department so that I could talk to them and let them know that this is anonymous. They can count on the fact that it's anonymous. They'll have an opportunity to answer the questions as well as provide any comments or feedback. So we went through police, fire, public works, parks and rec, as well as town hall and GTV. The way that we looked at this was, and so you understand it, is that scores between 4 and 5 are considered good. That's in general. Scores at 3 were considered neutral. Scores between 2 and 3 were certainly areas of concern. And then scores below 2, the recommendation would be to address as quickly as possible. We reviewed trends with each department, and we identified some town trends as well. So starting with police, and again, I'm giving you even a smaller snapshot of what we found. But 58% participation, which is good. Supervisors' support of their employee well-being was 3.68 out of 5, which I found to be fantastic. I think that's great that people feel they can go to their supervisors to discuss anything that they need to. Cruisers scored above average as far as their mobile transportation. The station itself, probably not a surprise, scored low as far as how people felt about that. And the select board was between that 2 and that 3 on how do we care about their well-being, and do we have policies that support well-being? So 66% of the department found this useful, 33% did not. And as we keep in mind as we go through, so much of this is about what are we doing next. This is just a first shot. We're going to be able to drill down some questions based on some of the results that we got to really try to figure out more of the whys around these answers. Fire, we got 20 out of 46, so only 43%. Nothing overwhelmingly positive. I don't think that is a surprise to us who have been working with the former chief. Areas of concern, high stress at work. A lot of change in a short time creates unintentional side effects, being people maybe not as trained as you would want them to be in the beginning. There was a lot of call-outs where some of the comments were about going to work one day and not knowing if you're going to have a full staff. If you get a call, what's that going to be like? Are people going to respond to a call back? So some of those comments were made. Another area of concern is that 35% didn't feel they could safely talk to someone at work about their mental or physical well-being. And with the stress of a job like this, you certainly want that to be a high number. Select board, again, between 2 and 3 on those 2 questions about well-being and our policies. But 85% found the survey useful, 15% did not. Public Works, we got 48% participation. Physical environment scored well. Well-being at work, also close to a 4, so that's fantastic. The area of concern, which is a little bit of a question mark for us, and hopefully something we can drill down for in going forward, was that 41% of respondents said they didn't trust their coworkers to support their personal well-being. So we certainly want to develop questions to address that more. The purpose of the job, 76% said their work gave them a sense of purpose. This question came from Adam, so Public Works was after police and fire. This is a great question to keep on it going forward, because it does matter for well-being, whether or not you feel like what you're doing on a daily basis is meaningful. Select Board, again, scored between the 2 and the 3 on the personal well-being and our policies. 59% said it was useful, 41% did not. Parks and Rec was a little different. Danielle sat with the team to go through these questions in person. Overwhelmingly positive response. Area of concern would be the facility. There's no HVAC. This is tough throughout the extreme temperatures, either winter or summer, and no air filtration in the building. So that's a concern there. 100% of them said their work gave them a sense of purpose, which is great, and the Select Board was between 3 and 4 on those 2 questions, with 100% finding it useful. And then finally, Town Hall. We got 86% participation. Schedule creates work-life balance was great. That was a 3.7. Supervisor support of employee well-being was also a 3.8, which is fantastic. 63% of the respondents felt there are no opportunities for growth or career advancement within the Town Hall framework. Concern would be 20% of comments made were about the cleanliness of the facility. 95% said their work gave them a sense of purpose. And again, Select Board between 2 and 3 on the 2 questions pertaining to our efforts. And 63% found useful, 37% not. Townwide trends. Concerns about Select Board engagement overall, that is something to just keep in your back pocket, think about. And then facility concerns were reported by 4 out of 5 groups. So looking at that, considering that in our budget allocations or what we support, could be really helpful going forward. In general, not being a scientific study in our first shot at this, I'm pretty happy with the fact that we got a decent amount of responses, and I think some good information. The hope would be that going forward, these questions can be looked at. We can get the results of this, and then maybe create questions that really are directed more at very specific things. The department heads certainly can do that with anyone on this board who's willing to do the wellness committee next year. And I think it's a good exercise going forward, anecdotally only. I can only say this anecdotally, but I got a lot of people that were there saying, hey, thank you for doing this. Thank you for taking a look at how we're doing and actually collecting some of this data. So I feel like that in and of itself is worth something. So That's it. I tried to go fast on purpose, but if there are any questions, I'm happy to talk about it.
Are these the actual questions?
The actual questions are, everything's in this select board room. The entire results, including the comments. Because of the anonymity, we wanted to make sure that that was in there, but the questions varied very little, department to department. As we got better at it, again, Adam added one, I think Derek added another one at some point. But all the questions, for the most part, were the same.
Well, I think for sure, we've got to take a look at what the responses were regarding the select board.
Sure.
I mean, it's not really encouraging. I mean, I guess we need to find out what their definition of well-being is.
Mm-hmm.
And is it the well-being related to a facility?
Yep. Or is it pay? This is where I think it really helps going forward into next year, is adding some of those questions to figure out what does well-being mean to you and what in your life defines well-being. I think that will be helpful. With every group, what I said to them when they think about this is, when you come into work, when you get in your car to come in, are you dreading the day? Is that where you're at? And that's really, things aren't going well. Or are you feeling pretty confident you're going to have a decent day, you're going to feel productive, that your general sense of well-being is high? So that was the overall sentiment of a lot of these questions. So I think drilling down going forward to your point, what is it that affects your well-being is the next step in this process.
Yeah, what's their definition of well-being?
Yep.
Good, okay, that's good to know. Anybody?
No, that's my focus exactly. You know, what does that mean? What does
Mhm.
well-being mean? Well-being to you is different than well-being to me is different than,
Well,
you know, but there needs to be some way to evaluate those. And it needs to be kind of consistent across the board, at least to the extent we can. But,
Agree?
and like you mentioned, Chet, I'm sure, or maybe it was Peter, yeah, I'm sure pay plays a big part in this, you know. So I'd feel a lot better if I was getting paid more.
yeah. Or, you know, like, and Parks and Rec didn't give us a bad review, but, you know,
Yeah.
well-being is having air conditioning to work in, you know, I mean, that could be an item that,
Yeah.
you know, would affect somebody's
Yeah.
feelings, so.
Couple mice.
There you go, mice and squirrels, great, great. Yeah, so, go
What
ahead.
does our town have in terms of HR now? Is it-
So right now, we do not have HR. What we do is Danielle handles a lot of HR-related items in coordination with Derek. Questions come from department heads.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
each department head is responsible for HR. Danielle and I support as much as we can. And then we also have a benefits coordinator in the finance office here that does a lot of the paperwork, the routine tasks, as well as can provide those printed resources for through our healthcare and stuff like that. But it's really, right now, it's primarily the department's responsibility, and then again, when it gets into certain things, I know Danielle's done a wonderful job over the last couple of years of coming up with a couple different programs. We do have a town wellness committee. Unfortunately, COVID has made it difficult for them to meet and be as active as they had in years past, but they did a hydration challenge probably about 6 months ago, so they've done a few things, but we do not have any one person tasked to just HR in this town.
What if an employee's got a problem with substance abuse or mental health issues or something like that? Is there anything for?
We typically rely on our insurance provider that has an employee assistance program that we can refer them to.
Where's that?
New Hampshire Health Trust is
They send them to wherever they're sitting?
yeah, they've either got a call-in or we can help them arrange a meeting. Yeah.
And we did a benefits tour. I don't know how you would really, Danielle, went to different, you could tell Danielle about how you made the presentations to everybody on benefits.
Yeah, was that 2019?
Yeah.
In 2019, Danielle did education series for all the different departments to explain what the different benefits were, what the differences were, and answer any questions for employees.
So it doesn't sound like that's the focus of what the problems are, is it? That the help is there if they have those kind of issues, but I'm not sure what.
Well, we need to find out, I think that's what we said, we need to find what they're talking about, well, you know, well-being, we don't know, you know.
So why don't we,
We know what the fire department's well-being is. They're stressed because they were short-handed and didn't
Yep.
have any help. and,
Yep.
You
but
know,
in regards to this that was presented to us tonight, send a letter of acknowledgement to everybody, say that we've received it and we reviewed it, and now we're having an issue with this, the well.
no, we're not having an issue.
Well,
I don't wanna say we're having an issue. I think what we need to do is go on, as Chet recommended, go on to the next phase.
Mhm.
You know, we don't wanna say that, okay, we're doing something wrong, tell us what it is. I think it's more, tell us what you mean by well-being, what,
Well, yeah, tell us what you mean.
yeah.
I think we need to formulate a plan to put out there to folks saying, okay, we've gone through the first step. Now we
Yeah.
need to drill down, we need to get a few more
Exactly.
details on this, so we can move this forward a little bit more.
Like,
Address the
like you
needs of-
said, the well-being could be pay, you know, I need more money,
Yeah.
you know, well, that's,
I think it should be structured, the next one, this was structured as it should, as I feel it should have been, because it's really a general sense. Now that we have this, we can go, okay, we're committing to the continuation of this discussion, and then the framework of the next survey or discussion can be around what contributes to your well-being. Prioritize 1 through 5, let's say. Maybe we start there, and our questions are sort of determined by the answers to that
you know,
following.
money, facilities.
Yeah. Yep.
It could get really.
Benefits.
It could get really specific, the furniture is not under laundry construction.
Sure can.
These chairs are terrible, I can't sit in them for 8 hours a day. I mean,
Yeah.
those are the kind of issues that I would hope to get out of these, because you can address them head on.
Schedules. There are so many things. So I think that's the next step.
Excellent. You all set? Anybody else?
Thank you, Chad.
Yeah, thank you.
Nice job, Chet.
Thank you.
And Danielle, I think you helped out.
Yes, Danielle did an awesome job.
Okay, old business, we just did the wellness survey, action matrix. I saw the letter that you sent out again.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think we need to stay on top of that because unfortunately, the other piece that we had talked about sold. so.
Yep. Yep.
Rotary Park, we got their response.
Yes, and if you'd like, I can distribute that to other board members. I
Yeah.
shared it with you and Selectman Adams, but I
Yeah.
can share it with other board members as well.
That was something that when we need to discuss, it needs to go into non-public because it has to do with property.
Yeah, I definitely want us to keep it on the action matrix, because it's about a lot more than just an agreement with Rotary. It's the facility, and how we're gonna move forward with this. Amenity. Anyways,
Let's go with the fire chief on the vehicles. Big smile on his face. He's not happy about this one. You thought you were gonna get off easy, huh, chief?
So I will make a note, there is a typo on the very bottom one. That Bobcat is actually DPW.
I don't know the way things.
Fire doesn't have a Bobcat yet.
Maybe you could trade the YouTube.
They came looking for it today.
So, we know the first one was the ambulance was totaled.
Yes, so the Primex has agreed to basically replace it. The challenge we're gonna have is being able to either find, like either a demo unit, or we had also talked about that ambulance is new enough, if you will, you could take the box off it and put a new chassis under it. So those are basically the two options we're gonna look at for the ambulance.
Now, do they, Primex pay for a rental ambulance or while we're waiting for that ambulance to come back?
And
Yes, yes.
believe so.
Yep.
Primex does have provisions for rental vehicles, however, it's currently capped at $3,000 per incident. And with an ambulance being roughly $100 a day, that's not gonna be a very long time running. There are provisions in the plan to allow extensions of that, so we're currently working with Primex on finding out what they'd be willing to do. Would we be having to submit as a claim supplement, or would they extend it just based on the case? So they're looking into that. We didn't need to, correct me if I'm wrong, but we didn't need to take a rental right away until the other ambulance went out. So we
Okay.
just got one on Friday.
So the max benefit is 3,000? Is that what you're saying?
That's the standard max
Okay,
on vehicles, but obviously the
so
fire apparatus.
more or less
are
a
unique.
30-day deal, and
Yeah.
You can rent an ambulance for $100 a day?
Yes.
Wow.
Wait, need a ride, Colin?
These days, you can hardly rent a car for that.
But your house is gonna be renting an ambulance.
You have to stock it though.
Yeah.
You have to put all the equipment in yourself.
And
Okay.
so our goal will be, as you know, the other ambulance is that highway. It's got a fuel tank, bolt
Straps,
issue.
yeah.
And we have a new gas tank on order. And so we're trying to turn that around quickly to get that loaner back, so we don't, maybe we could use it in the future if we have to.
Right, if we have to, yeah.
And then the engine 2, it says out for unknown specific time.
Okay, so engine 2 first was out of service for some computer issues on the engine. It is now back in service as we're basically running it as a tanker because the damaged part of the engine, the compartment, we can't keep stuffing in there. So it is running back in service, and we can utilize it in that way. And I believe we just got the approval on having that repaired today even maybe, or.
Yeah, I think that,
Yeah.
I had sent that to you right before the meeting had started.
So next, we're gonna schedule that to go out for repair.
Okay, and then you covered ambulance 3, that's the one with the gas tank. And then Mark's favorite item, the UTV. Do we even use that?
No, it's not running.
It's not running now.
So it's going tomorrow back down to the Gravely dealer. It was not running, it would not start. And before we did that, we did try, all the area ATV places, and they won't touch it because it's proprietary to Gravely. So we're gonna go down there, look at it. While it's there, I'm gonna have it fully serviced. We'll bring it back in service, and we're gonna alter.
Posted for sale?
We're gonna alter our policies and stuff to make sure they're keeping it on the,
Why'd you wreck it, David?
on the pass.
I'm sure you would.
We use it on a trail.
Uh-huh.
I do believe, Mr. Chairman, it does have a use to us, not only from a rescue standpoint, and it does have that forestry unit. However, I had a discussion today to make that more easier to access, that we may possibly come up with a rigging that could suspend that forestry unit so that it wasn't constantly in a UTV, but if we needed it for a forest fire, we could do that and put it into service that way. I think it does have some value, for the rail trail and the mountaineers and stuff. It just needs some proper use and enforcement through policies and procedures.
Well, we haven't had good luck with it. We've had issues with that.
I believe I can bring my Irish luck to it.
Oh boy, here we go. All right, so we don't know
You
that.
mentioned policies on proper use, is it not being used properly? I mean, do we need training on, or qualifications?
They went for training and they totaled it, remember?
That was the first one.
Yeah, the first
Yeah.
one.
I think the issue was where it was used, taking it off of a trail and basically, running it through the brush and that, and versus using, known pathways and from that aspect of it. Making that, that you don't take it off to go boondocking through the woods, you stay on the trails and the pathways.
All part of training.
And continued training.
So we had 2 pieces of apparatus damaged during the ice storm? I'm seeing engine 2 during the ice storm was struck, causing body and
That's why
cabinet
it was
damage.
that's why it was at the repair facility.
That was back in January.
And then engine one, it says accident during ice storm. So we got
Yes.
1 and 2, both.
They mean, would you mean the tower maybe,
I
Sean?
believe it's a tower, Mr. Chairman. They went to a chimney fire up a long extended driveway. It was that last weekend where we had the ice storm.
The one in Bedford?
No, Parker
Oh,
Station
Park
Road.
Station?
And as they were backing it out, it was a dirt gravel driveway, hit some ice, and it slowly went in and hit a boulder. Didn't do significant damage. That's, they've got that diamond plate to protect it, but it did bend that. And that's also been looked at by the insurance company.
But that's still operational at this time?
Yes, yep.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else have any questions?
Nope.
Nope.
Adam, the Bobcat, that's, how many of those we have, 2?
3 total, 2 for the roads, 1 for the transfer.
Okay. So what are you doing in the meantime?
With the old Bombardier in Norwich, right?
I saw the Bombardier parked over in Penado.
Yeah, that's what they're using.
Yes, so we have the Bombardier, the tracked sidewalk machine. Usually we save that for break glass in case of emergency, but I guess we're kind of there. So that's been out the last couple storms. This Bobcat drive damage was pretty recent. We had another issue on the other, but that's back in service. But this one was, I think, Thursday. Maybe it went down with the drive belt. When they took it off, realized that the harness was damaged as well. So waiting on that. I don't believe it came in today, but should be. I would hope anyway that part would be in this week and we get it back up.
All right, thank you. Anybody got any questions?
I got a question.
Bud?
Adam, have we looked into replacing those 2 Bobcats with a new one machine like Manchester uses, the snow blower with the bigger scoop in the front, so that we could travel over the roads and not have to trailer the current Bobcats we have?
So at various times that's been looked at. They're pretty expensive, like a holder or a trackless type machine. Usually is what you'll see, a dedicated sidewalk machine. The biggest downside has been that we use our Bobcats year-round. We cycle them in for construction, for the jobs, on-scene drainage work, getting gravel in the trench lines and stuff, keeping the area clean. We throw the broom on, and then at the end of the day, sweep up the debris. We use them for mill and fill. There's a mill and fill attachment that goes on to those. So we use them year-round, whereas with this dedicated sidewalk machines, unless you start to really stress them with like a boom flail mower or something, you don't get quite as much use. So it's a little bit more money, for
Not
less-
as versatile.
Exactly. They're a little more cushy. Some of the drivers of the Bobcats in the winter would certainly like it because they're much nicer for that, and you can certainly cover a little bit more territory with them. I'm not sure we could drop down to a 2-for-1 anyway, so we'd still be, even if we swapped one, we'd still have
I know we had a pretty bad year for the storms with the ice and rain, but a lot of the things, right after the machine goes by in the Penardville area or wherever the sidewalk is, you either get a line in the middle or the actual snow blower itself leaves this much snow on the sidewalk. Any way of possibly trying to?
A lot this year, and it seems to be, as I don't do a ton of, gauging everybody else's, responses statewide, but from what I've seen, everybody seems to be having a lot of the same problem. That weird on-off nature of a couple storms in a row, changeover and then back to ice and back to snow, created this layer underneath everything that everybody's had a hard time getting off. So a lot of hard pack, and then once you get that couple inches of ice, especially on the backside, now the machines ride down on it instead of underneath it and scraping it off, and it kind of gets worse and worse with the re-slush. So just starting now to get to the point where we're seeing bare sidewalks on most sidewalks, but I agree, it was pretty rough. I'm not positive from what I'm seeing from the bigger cities that are also using those expensive machines.
Some of the streets in Manchester, or not the streets, but the sidewalks are still very, they're actually probably worse than ours now.
So it's tough, even
Yeah, 'cause
All right.
the conditions were tough.
Not a catch-all, or
Yeah.
a cure-all, I should say.
Yeah.
For sure. But
Good
it's
enough.
something we'll look at. If there's any grant money that falls out of the sky for DPW, maybe that's.
Well, we're gonna fix potholes first.
Oh, yeah,
Right.
maybe we can take
All right,
30.
thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Is there, I think we covered action matrix. Is there anybody here for public comment? Seeing none, before we go into non-public, I want to make note that this is Chet Bowen's last meeting as selectman, and he's decided not to run for the next term. He's got other visions,
Yep.
and we do appreciate the 3 years you've spent with us, and you did a great job on that report, and I hope you learned something and come back eventually.
Thank you. Thank you. It has been a pleasure to work with all of you, and this past year, I was able to work with the department heads in a closer fashion through the wellness committee, and that was also just absolutely wonderful. So, thank you all.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks, Chip.
Motion?
Motion to go into non-public session, RSA 91A:3A compensation,
And if you could add C, reputation as well.
and C reputation.
Second.
Motion by Mark, seconded by Chet. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Seeing none. That'll conclude tonight's portion of the public meeting. We'll be now going into non-public.